you ever been sitting on your couch completely absorbed in whatever you are doing and you get this feeling? That prickle on the back of your neck that tells you are being watched. You look up and there is your dog, just staring, not moving, not asking for anything, just locked onto you with those intense, unblinking eyes. Maybe you are in the kitchen making dinner, and you glance over your shoulder and there they are again, sitting perfectly still, eyes fixed on you like you are the most fascinating thing in the entire universe. Or maybe it is late at night, you are getting ready for bed, and you catch them in the hallway, just watching you in complete silence. And here is the thing that gets me. The first time I really noticed this with my own dog, I have to admit, it was a little unsettling. I actually wondered, what are they thinking? Why are they doing this? Are they trying to tell me something? But then I started digging into the research behind this behavior, and the very first reason I discovered, it completely blew my mind, because it revealed something about dogs that most people have no idea about. In fact, when I learned just how deeply your dog is actually studying you every single day, I started noticing things I'd been missing for years, and I think the same thing is about to happen to you. So let's dive in. 1. They're reading you like a book. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Your dog isn't just staring at you randomly, they're studying you, and they're incredibly good at it. Dogs have spent thousands of years evolving alongside humans, and during that time, they've developed an impressive ability to read us, not just our words, but our body language, our facial expressions, even the tiniest shifts in our posture or tone. When your dog stares at you, they're often gathering information. They're watching for cues about what is about to happen next. Think about it. You stand up from the couch and your dog immediately perks up. Why? Because they've learned that when you stand, something might happen. Maybe you are going to the kitchen, which could mean food. Maybe you are heading toward the door, which could mean a walk. Maybe you are just moving to another room, but they want to be ready just in case. Your dog has memorized your routines. They know what it means when you put on your shoes, when you grab your keys, when you reach for their leash, and they're constantly scanning you for those signals. But here is where it gets really interesting. Research suggests that dogs may be better at reading human body language than many other animals. Some studies indicate they can outperform wolves and even some primates in understanding human gestures and cues. Many researchers believe this ability didn't happen by accident. It likely evolved because the dogs who are better at understanding humans, who could anticipate their needs and respond to their cues, were the ones who survived and thrived. They got more food, more shelter, more care. So when your dog stares at you, they're not just looking, they're analyzing, they're predicting, they're trying to stay one step ahead so they don't miss out on whatever might happen next. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice this happens most often during transitional moments. When you're about to leave the house, when you are preparing a meal, when you are settling down for the evening. Your dog has learned that these moments matter, and their stare is their way of saying, I am paying attention, I am ready, don't leave me out. But reading you for information is only part of the story, because sometimes your dog isn't just trying to understand what you are doing. They're trying to tell you what they need, too. They're trying to communicate something. Here is a scenario you've probably experienced. You are sitting at your desk, working or scrolling on your phone, and suddenly you feel it. That stare. You look down, and your dog is sitting right next to you, eyes locked on yours, completely still. And you think, what do you want? Here is the truth. Your dog is communicating, and the stare, that is their language. Dogs can't speak our words. Obviously, they can't walk up to you and say, hey, I need to go outside, or I am hungry, or I am bored, and I'd really like some attention right now. So instead, they use their eyes. The stare is their way of getting your attention first. It is like tapping you on the shoulder. Once they have your focus, they might follow it up with other signals. A glance toward the door, a nudge toward their empty food bowl, a look at their leash hanging on the wall. But the initial stare, that is the opening line of the conversation. And here is where dogs get really clever. They learn very quickly what works. If they stare at you and you respond by letting them outside, they'll remember that. If they stare at you during dinner and you slip them a piece of food, they'll absolutely remember that too. Over time, your dog builds a mental map of which behaviors get them what they want, and staring becomes one of their most effective tools. Now, this can be a beautiful thing. It means you and your dog are communicating, learning each other's patterns, building a shared language. But it can also become a problem if we're not careful, because if we reward the stare every single time, even when we don't mean to, we're teaching our dog that staring is the best way to get what they want. Think about it. Your dog stares at you during dinner. You ignore them at first, but they keep staring. And eventually, maybe just to make them stop, you toss them a scrap. What did you just teach them? That persistence pays off, that if they stare long enough, they'll get what they want. This isn't about blaming the dog, they're just doing what works, but it does mean we have a choice in how we respond. Instead of giving in to the stare, we can teach our dogs better ways to ask for what they need. For example, if your dog needs to go outside, you can train them to ring a bell by the door. If they want attention, you can teach them to bring you a toy instead of just staring. The key is recognizing that the stare is communication, and then guiding that communication into forms that work better for both of you. Because when you do that, you are not just stopping an annoying behavior, you are deepening the relationship, you are teaching your dog that you understand them, and you are showing them how to be understood even more clearly. But communication isn't the only reason your dog stares. Sometimes, it is about something much deeper, something emotional. 3. They're showing you love. Now this is the part that absolutely melted my heart when I first learned about it. You know those moments when you and your dog just look at each other, no distractions, no agenda, just a quiet, peaceful gaze between the two of you. That is not random, that is bonding. Scientists have actually studied this, and what they found is incredible. Research suggests that when you and your dog look into each other's eyes, both of your brains may release a hormone called oxytocin. You might have heard of it. It is often called the love hormone or bonding hormone. It is the same chemical that appears to play a role in mother-infant bonding and other close relationships. And here is the amazing part. This oxytocin response between humans and dogs appears to be relatively unique. Some studies suggest it doesn't occur in the same way with other animals, not even with wolves. It is something that may have developed specifically between humans and dogs over thousands of years of living together. Think about what that might mean. Your dog looks at you, and their brain may be flooded with feelings of attachment and trust. You look back, and your brain might be doing the same thing. It could be a biological bonding ritual that is developed in both of your species. So when your dog stares at you softly, with relaxed eyes and a calm body, they're not asking for anything. They're not trying to manipulate you. They might just be loving you. And you can actually tell the difference between this kind of stare and the others. The I love you stare is soft. Their eyes might even be slightly squinted, almost like they're smiling. Their body is loose and relaxed. There is no tension, no demand, no urgency. It is just pure affection. And if you've ever had one of those moments where you catch your dog looking at you like that, and you feel this warmth in your chest, this overwhelming sense of connection, now you might understand why. It is not just sentiment. It could be chemistry, it could be biology, and it is real. This is one of the most profound things about the relationship between humans and dogs. We're not just companions. We may be bonded at a neurological level, and the simple act of looking into each other's eyes might strengthen that bond every single time. So the next time your dog gives you that soft, gentle stare, take a moment. Look back, let yourself feel it, because that is not just a stare. That might be love in its purest form. But not every stare is about emotional communication. Sometimes it is just pure curiosity. 4. They're just curious. Sometimes your dog stares at you for the simplest reason imaginable. They're just wondering what the heck you are doing. Dogs are naturally curious creatures, and because they see us as their family, their pack, everything we do is interesting to them. You are folding laundry. Fascinating. You are typing on your laptop. Intriguing. You are brushing your teeth. They have no idea why, but they want to watch. From your dog's perspective, you are this strange, tall, mostly hairless creature who does unusual things all day long. You open boxes, you stare at glowing screens, you make food appear out of nowhere, you put on different coverings every single day. It is odd, and your dog is trying to figure it out. This kind of staring is especially common when you are doing something new or unusual. Maybe you are rearranging furniture, maybe you are exercising in a way they haven't seen before, maybe you are just moving around the house in a pattern that doesn't match your normal routine. Your dog notices, and they watch, trying to make sense of it. This curiosity is actually a sign of intelligence and engagement. Your dog isn't just passively existing in your home. They're actively trying to understand their environment, and you are the most important part of that environment. And here is the sweet part. This kind of staring often comes with a head tilt. You know the one, that adorable, quizzical expression where your dog cocks their head to one side like they're saying, "Wait, what are you doing?" Scientists aren't entirely sure why dogs tilt their heads, but one theory is that they're trying to get a better view of your face or hear you more clearly. They're gathering more information, piecing together the puzzle of your behavior. So if your dog is staring at you while you do something mundane, don't be weirded out. They're not judging you. They're not plotting anything. They're just being the curious, engaged companion they are. And honestly, that is kind of beautiful. It means they care enough about you to pay attention, even to the boring stuff. But sometimes, a stare isn't curious or affectionate. Sometimes it is protective, and that is where things can get a little more serious. Now, we're almost halfway through, and if you are starting to see your dog's behavior in a completely different light, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we dive deep into dog psychology on this channel all the time. And honestly, the next 3 reasons get even more critical, Especially number 5, it is actually a warning sign that could prevent a serious problem if you catch it early enough. You definitely don't want to miss that one. Alright, let's keep going. 5. They're guarding something. This one is important, and it is something every dog owner should be able to recognize. If your dog is staring at you and their body is tense, their eyes are hard and unblinking, maybe their lips are slightly pulled back or they're growling softly, that is not affection, that is not curiosity, that is a warning. This is called resource guarding, and it is a natural instinct in dogs. In the wild, resources like food, safe resting spots, or valuable objects could mean the difference between survival and starvation, so dogs evolved to protect those things. Even though your dog lives in a comfortable home where food is plentiful and threats are minimal, that instinct is still there, and sometimes it surfaces. If your dog is staring at you while they're near their food bowl, or while they're holding a toy or bone, or even while they're lying in their favorite spot on the couch, they might be telling you to back off. This behavior isn't about dominance, it is about fear and insecurity. Your dog is worried that if you get too close, you are going to take something valuable away from them. And here is the thing. If you notice this kind of stare, it is crucial that you don't just ignore it or try to push through it. This is a situation where understanding your dog's communication can prevent a bite. If your dog is resource guarding, the solution isn't punishment. It is building trust and teaching them that your presence near their resources is actually a good thing, not a threat. You can work on this through training exercises like trading up, where you offer them something even better in exchange for what they're guarding, or by gradually desensitizing them to having people nearby while they eat or chew. But if the behavior is severe, or if you are unsure how to handle it, please reach out to a professional dog trainer or behaviorist. Resource guarding can escalate if it is not addressed properly, and safety always comes first. The key takeaway here is that a stare isn't always benign. Context matters, body language matters, and learning to read the difference between a loving gaze and a warning stare is one of the most important skills you can develop as a dog owner. Now, let's shift back to something a little lighter, because sometimes your dog's stare isn't protective or affectionate or curious. Sometimes they're just confused. 6. They don't understand what you want. Picture this. You ask your dog to do something. Maybe you say, "Go to your bed," or "Bring me your toy," and instead of doing what you asked, they just stare at you. It is easy to assume they're being stubborn or defiant. But here is the truth. They probably just don't understand. Dogs don't speak our language. They can learn to associate certain sounds with certain actions, but they don't process words the way we do, and if your command isn't clear, or if they haven't been taught what it means, they're left guessing. So they stare at you hoping for more information. It is like they're saying, "I want to help you. I want to do what you are asking, but I don't know what that is." This kind of stare is often accompanied by other signals of uncertainty. Maybe their ears are slightly back. Maybe they're sitting very still, almost frozen. Maybe they glance away and then back at you, like they're trying to piece together what you want. If this happens, it is not your dog's fault, and it is not really your fault either. It is just a communication gap. The solution is patience and clarity. Break down what you are asking into smaller steps. Use consistent commands. Reward them when they get it right. And if they're still confused, take a step back and reteach the behavior from the beginning. The stare of confusion is actually a gift, because it shows you where the misunderstanding is happening. It is your dog saying, "I am trying, but I need more help." And when you respond with patience instead of frustration, you are building trust. You are teaching your dog that it is safe to not know something, because you'll help them figure it out. Which brings us to the final reason your dog might be staring, and this one is all about teamwork. 7. They're looking to you for guidance. This is one of my favorite reasons because it shows just how much your dog trusts you. Sometimes your dog stares at you because they're waiting for direction. They're looking to you as their leader, their guide, the one who knows what to do next. This happens a lot during training, but it also happens in everyday life. Maybe you are on a walk and you come to an intersection, and your dog looks up at you as if to say, "Which way?" Maybe you are at the park and another dog approaches and your dog checks in with you to see if it is safe. This behavior is often called checking in, and it is a sign of a strong, healthy bond. It means your dog sees you as a source of information and security. It means they trust your judgment. And it means they're engaged with you, even in distracting or uncertain environments. You can actually encourage this behavior through training. Teaching your dog to make eye contact with you on command, using cues like "look at me" or "watch," reinforces their natural instinct to look to you for guidance. And the more you reward that eye contact, the more your dog will offer it, which makes training easier, walks more enjoyable, and your overall relationship stronger. This kind of stare is collaborative. It is your dog saying, "I am with you. What do we do now?" And when you respond with clarity and confidence, you are reinforcing that partnership. You are telling your dog, I've got you, we're a team. So let's bring this all together. When your dog stares at you, they're not just being weird or creepy or random, they're communicating, they're bonding, they're trying to understand you and be understood by you. Sometimes they're reading you for cues about what is coming next. Sometimes they're trying to tell you what they need. Sometimes they're showing you love. Sometimes they're just curious about the strange things you do. Sometimes they're protecting something valuable. Sometimes they're confused and need your help. And sometimes they're looking to you for direction because they trust you completely. Every stare has a meaning, and the more you learn to read those meanings, the deeper your connection with your dog becomes. But here is one last thing I want to leave you with. Should you stare back at your dog? The answer is, it depends. If your dog is giving you that soft, loving gaze, absolutely. Stare back, let yourself feel that oxytocin bond. Enjoy that moment of connection. But if your dog is staring in a tense, guarded way, or if they're a dog you don't know well, prolonged staring can be seen as a challenge or a threat. In those situations, soften your gaze. Look away briefly, give them space. The key is matching your response to the context. Read your dog's body language, understand what kind of stare it is, and respond in a way that strengthens trust rather than creating tension. Because at the end of the day, that stare, whether it is curious or loving or confused or protective, is your dog's way of staying connected to you. It is their way of saying, you matter to me, I am paying attention, I am here, and that is something worth staring back at. If this helped you understand your dog a little better, share it with another dog owner who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep learning the hidden language your dog speaks every day, subscribe so you never miss what is coming next, because your dog is talking to you, and now you are learning to listen.